When it comes to presenting in front of an audience, people often look at me. I go up on stage, I do my presentation. Usually then I come back down to the audience and a handful of people will come up to me and tell me, things like, oh, that was great. I really enjoyed that. That was the best lecture I ever had. But one thing I get most often is people will say things like, I wish I was as good at presenting as you. It must be so nice. It must be so nice to be naturally good at presenting. This is something, if you have any sort of skill that you have practiced a lot in your life, maybe you are into sport, maybe you're really into golf, maybe you're a great golfer and people always admire your skill. Maybe it is music, maybe you play the guitar, you're really great. People are always telling you they wish they were as good as you. People underestimate the time it takes to get good at something. And when you see the finished product, when you see the speaker up on the stage who absolutely knocks it out of the park, when you see the golfer who hits that perfect drive, 250 yards straight down the fairway, or when you see a musician play something absolutely beautiful, you just see the final product. You don't see the thousands of hours that it took to get there. Personally, a lot of people might not believe this, but when I was an undergraduate student, I wasn't very good at presenting. In fact, I was outright afraid of it. The night before a presentation, I would stay up. I would be so nervous. I wouldn't be able to sleep, and my stomach used to do this horrible thing. The less information, the better, but let's just say it was very uncomfortable. It completely ruined the day before. I couldn't relax, I couldn't focus, I couldn't do anything. So for 24 hours leading up to the talk, I was absolutely in bits. And I wouldn't sleep very well. I would wake up and I would just pray to God that my presentation was one of the first that day. If I was at the end of a long day, that was even worse. I'd have to wait the whole day and I couldn't focus on anything, any of the other speakers. That was my experience. I was dreadful at it. But this video isn't about that. This video is about how do you cope early on in your journey, okay? Maybe you're not the best presenter yet. You're on the path, but you're not there yet. How do you manage those nerves? Are there some sort of tricks or little mindset hacks that you can use to get yourself in the zone or just dampen down the nerves a little bit? Okay, so one of the first mindset hacks that I came up with is something I call zooming out. Now, what I mean by zooming out is putting everything in perspective. Okay, so yes, you've got to go up and do a presentation in front of a crowd. Maybe it's thousands of people, maybe it's hundreds, maybe it's in the tens, maybe it's just a lab meeting and there's about 5 or 6 people there. Okay, doesn't matter. You have built this up to be this big event in your head. So how do you minimize it? Well, the best way to do that is by zooming out. And what I mean by that is think about your life. Okay, think about your life. Maybe you have a partner, siblings, parents, grandparents. Think about your family, your friends, your community. Then zoom out a little bit more. Think about your country. What sort of impact do you have on a countrywide level or on a continental level? Zoom out to the earth. Is what you're going through, is it a big deal in the context of the entire planet? Maybe not. I used to watch a video that would zoom out even further every time before I gave a big talk. Even the night before, I'd watch this video, and it's a clip from a show called Cosmos. And in episode 1, there's this lovely clip where they zoom out from the Earth to the solar system. Okay, so you see the sun and all the planets. Then they zoom out again, and you see the Milky Way. Okay, you see the galaxy. How many other systems are in that galaxy? Then they zoom out again to the local group, and then they zoom out again, I think it's to the Virgo supercluster, and finally they zoom out to the observable universe. Okay, and if you don't know what the observable universe is, what that means, look it up, it'll absolutely blow your mind. But the whole exercise was to get you to conceptualize what you're going through as a really tiny thing. It might seem very big to you, but in the grand scheme of things, it's not that important. Okay, you're going to do that presentation. It's going to go well. Maybe it won't go so well. At the end of it, you'll still be alive. You'll be fine. Okay. Now, this won't work for everyone. Okay, particularly that clip, that Cosmos clip. I know some people watch it and it makes them feel at peace. That's how I feel. I know some people watch it and it makes them feel like they're about to have an existential crisis. Okay, so Maybe it's for you, maybe it's not for you. Okay, now I'll tell you my favorite one. This is sort of my secret weapon. I don't know if I've ever told anyone this one before. This is the I've already won mindset. I used to picture myself, okay, I'm getting ready to go up and do my presentation. And I would picture to myself that actually I've already done it. I've already done the presentation. And the organizers of the event have approached me and they've said, Dean, we loved that presentation. In fact, we're going to give you an award for best talk today. It was fantastic. But we've got some more people in the room that weren't here in the session where you gave your presentation. Would you mind doing it again? Sort of like a victory lap. Just do it again for fun, and then we'll award you with the best presentation, but which you've already won. So this might sound bizarre, but this was my actual mindset. Pretty much every time I gave a presentation during my PhD, I would stand up there and I'd pretend, yeah, I've already been awarded best presentation. So now I'm just doing it for fun. Okay? And if you're the kind of person who hates presentations, the idea of doing it for fun might just go right over your head, but bear with me. The reason this worked so well was that it took all the pressure off me. Okay, it took all the pressure off me. I'm quite competitive, but as I said to you before, I used to be quite nervous about presentations. So not only was I nervous about how I was going to do, there was also a competitive element where I wanted it to be the best. I wanted it to be the best presentation. So I was thinking about how can I get that prize? So I was able to remove the pressure, remove a lot of the nerves by adopting this mindset and truly believing that this had happened, that they had given me the prize, and then I was just doing a victory lap. I was just presenting it a second time for fun. Now, the reason I think this is such a potent mindset is because it completely changes your perspective. And your perspective on what you're focusing on when you're up public speaking is crucial. And the biggest mistake I see people make is beginners tend to go up, and particularly people who are quite nervous, they are self-focused. They're so focused on their self, how they're portraying themselves, that they set themselves up for a huge failure. And what I mean by that is, if you go up in front of a room of people to present something, and you're focused on yourself and not the audience, you're going to make mistakes. The ums and the ahs and the, let me go back a slide, I need to go back a slide, I missed something. That is going to start to creep in because you're so self-focused and you're trying to do the impossible. You're trying to give the perfect presentation, which doesn't exist, okay? Especially not at the level you're operating at. This does not exist. You can do your best, but you're never going to hit perfect, okay? And this self-focus puts this unbelievable pressure on you to reach that perfect presentation, okay? The problem with this perspective is it's completely the opposite way around from what you want. You want your perspective to be audience-focused, okay? Now, this runs counterintuitive to what a lot of people think, especially people who are just getting started in public speaking, is they want to pretend the audience isn't even there, okay? So they shift, they naturally drift into this self-focused state. But if you focus on the audience, you will achieve several things, okay? One of the things you'll achieve is it takes the pressure off you, okay? It might not seem like it, but it does. If you're not thinking about yourself and how you look, and are you stuttering, what are you saying, that relieves a lot of pressure. The other thing is, if you're focusing on the audience, then you're actually focusing on the main goal of the presentation. Whenever you present something, whenever you speak in front of a group of people, you're trying to communicate something to them. And if they don't understand by the end of your talk what you were trying to communicate, that's not their fault for not understanding. It's your fault for not communicating it well enough, okay? Misunderstandings are always the fault of the communicator, not the audience. So if you're focused on the audience, you will be able to look, make eye contact, see their facial expressions, and you'll notice things. You'll see, okay, maybe you've explained something and people are sort of frowning and shaking their heads and squinting. Okay, well, that's telling you immediately they've not understood what you've just explained to them. So maybe you can take 10, 15 seconds, maybe even 30 seconds if you've got it. Go back over that and put it in different words, okay? Re-explain it, re-teach that concept out. What you'll start to see, if you're doing this right, is the audience go from sort of squinting, shaking their heads, to they'll start to nod along with you, okay? And that's when you know things are going well, okay? If you get to the end of a topic or a slide or a concept and the audience is nodding, they've understood, okay? You can confidently move on to the next point, knowing that you've laid the groundwork, okay? Everything so far they've understood. And that's your goal, is to get to the end of the talk They understood everything, which means they followed along. They didn't drift off into space or out the window. They stayed engaged with your talk the whole way through. Okay, final thing I should mention in terms of mindset, manage your expectations, okay? I see this all the time, not just from students, but all the way up to postgrad students, postdocs, and lecturers, okay? People have a tendency to put these really high expectations on themselves, and they often don't realize they're doing it because they will actually put those expectations onto the audience, pointing back at them, okay? So what I mean by that is, a final year undergraduate student, they're doing their research project. That involves doing a presentation, which is quite heavily marked, okay? So they will present that in front of a room of other people, and there will be 3 lecturers usually assessing them. The undergraduate student might think, oh, they're expecting me to do like a TED talk, like this needs to be incredible to get those top marks. In reality, that's not the case, okay? They're not expecting a TED talk. What they want is for you to be able to explain your project, what you did, how you did it, do you understand it, explain it to them clearly and concisely, okay? It's not that difficult, but sometimes people freak themselves out before they even get up to speak because they think there's these high expectations pointing at them, okay? And it's usually self-created, but they just displace it and they put it on the audience, okay? You just need to remember the expectations change, okay? Undergraduate student, expectations are not very high. We know you've not had a lot of experience public speaking, okay? We know that. So we're not expecting anything wild. Now, a master's student, let's say, we might expect a bit more of, and a PhD student, there's a whole range of expectations depending on if they're in first year or if they're in their 3rd year, okay? A first year PhD student, after a couple of months, they'll be asked to do an introductory presentation. And this is literally just, do you understand what your project's going to be over the next 3 years? Okay? It's usually very short, and it's just a way for them to assess, do they get it? Have they wrapped their head around it? That's very different from the expectations placed on a 3rd year student who's about to go in to sit their Viva. They need to be able to talk about what they've done for, on an average, about 4.5 hours. Okay? Wildly different, but that's a journey that you go on. Postdoc and lecture, it's really once you hit those levels that, yeah, the audience is expecting you to be able to give something quite impressive at this point. So if you can't do that, something's gone wrong. But if you're at those earlier stages, don't put this huge amount of pressure on yourself, okay? Because it's not helpful. That pressure and those expectations you're putting on yourself, they are going to lead you into that self-focused state that we want to stay away from. We want to go into the audience-focused state. Okay, folks, so I hope that was helpful to you. I hope some of those mindset hacks were useful and will be useful going forward. Okay, if you've got your own hacks or if you've used some of mine and you think they're great, let me know in the comments below, okay? Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, okay? If you like and subscribe to the channel, that tells me that you're getting some benefit or you find these videos useful, okay? It tells me to keep making them, okay? Thank you very much.